Welcome from the deep. I am Mike the Finder.
And I am Book of Brett.
And today we're going to be trying a slightly different format than we've done in the past with two reviews. I think that in the past we've done one main review. And when we first started...
Let's be clear. 2 reviews, 2 movies, 1 each. This is not going to be a super lengthy where we go into 2 movies and it's going to be like a 2-3 hour
this is not going to be this is not going to be double the length. This new format, what we're going to do here is we'll each talk about a movie that we've watched over the last week. We will each review it solo. The other will chime in if they've seen it or with questions or whatever. That way we talk about double the amount of movies we've been talking about before.
Same length, double the girth.
Same length, double the girth. So today Brett is going to be talking about... Heretic from 2024. I'm going to be talking about Wolfman from 2025. We will each do 10 minutes or so on each movie, and we will move on, and then we will give our ratings toward the very end of the conversation about this whole thing. So this is all going to be a learning process, this new format. So if there's any awkwardness, that's what it is. So
come with us.
Come with us. Join us on this awkward ride.
Reading Rainbow.
So anyway, why don't you go ahead and start us off with Heretic from 2024?
Yes, Heretic starring Hugh Grant, Sophie Turner, and
Chloe East.
Is a movie about 2 missionaries from the Mormon Church that are going door to door, talking to different people, trying to sell the product that is Jesus Christ to Hugh Grant. And Hugh Grant doesn't like that very much at all. He's got this whole idea in his head about what the one true religion is, which is what all cult leaders say, actually. Heretic is a symptom of what I find is happening in film so much these days, which is you'll get a really, really good movie, or you'll get a really bad movie, or you'll get what Heretic is, which is a movie that's really good, gets pushed into a corner, and they don't know how the fuck to get out of that corner, even though nobody's holding them in that fucking corner.
Oh, you mean like Cobweb?
Yes, I mean like Cobweb. It's 80% of this movie is amazing. Like genuinely amazing. I mean, but it's an A24 movie. I find A24 for me is like Blumhouse's for you. It's A24 is very hit or miss for me. And I think the best way to do this is to just start with my Letterboxd review, and then we'll kind of build off of there, because my Letterboxd review is pretty concise and covers pretty much everything I had an issue with without going, too far into it. So, Hugh Grant stuns. Seriously, if he doesn't do more horror thrillers, it'll be blasphemy. Blasphemy, because it's shut up. Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East amaze. Chung Hoon Chung and his departments compel. That's the cinematographer. But Scott Beck and Bryant Woods have found a way to take us on a journey of intellectual debate, spiritual twists and turns, and imagery that intrigues, a la Robert Eggers' Gothic meets A24 banality, that coalesces into a level of disappointment that can best be compared to finding your bride fucking your best man on your wedding day. The entirety of what could have been a compelling dark adventure completely falls apart at the very end, where we had 15 minutes to put a silver bow on a golden package. Instead, we're given a lazy way out of a pretty wide open corner that had so many options and could have found redemption from one preposterous decision. One decision ruined this whole movie, and it snowballed from there. This movie should be watched for the 80% of it that's amazing, but be warned, abandon all hope eventually, for ye who enter here. And it's true. I'm not going to give spoilers, because I think you should watch this.
I plan to, eventually. Yeah.
Yes. You should watch this, because the best way I can describe this, now Hugh Grant is the villain. Hugh Grant is this movie. And after the one decision that happens that ruins this whole thing, the whole thing falls apart. And I genuinely, it is so preposterously stupid. I literally lost all interest in this movie. I genuinely kept watching the last 20 minutes of this movie just because I can't review a movie without watching the whole goddamn thing. And it genuinely feels like they just lost the pacing. Like, not the pacing, but like they lost the direction of what they wanted to do. Because everything else around this, I mean, it really is good. The writing's good. The, as somebody who identifies as an anti-theist, I thoroughly enjoyed how this whole thing is basically him just kind of confronting the cult that is Mormonism. But other than that, everything around it is amazing. It really, really is good. You feel unnerved from the moment you see Hugh Grant, maybe because you know he is the bad guy. I mean, you know he's the bad guy. Pull up the poster.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at this poster when you were talking about this earlier.
Does that look like a good guy?
It's great.
No.
Like, it's a great poster.
He found this way.
Let me do this. There.
He found this way to bring his rom-com charm that every woman from 35 to 62 has loved for so long. And he put that into this, like, thriller horror person. You can tell the charm is there, but there's something sinister about it now. And I think, like to me, Hugh Grant has almost created like his own horror thriller persona that he can inject into his characters. And I don't know if it would be there if he hadn't had the rom-com history and background that he's got.
So I guess my question with this is like, is this like one of those things where is he the protagonist throughout the entire movie, or are the girls the protagonist? Because I think what
okay.
I think what you're saying, I haven't seen this movie, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but I think what you're saying as far as like when the thing that happens toward the end, and you lose interest, is it because he's the protagonist and we no longer get that perspective, or is it because they no longer have a threat to them to carry through the rest of the movie?
No, it's because the decision, he is very much the antagonist and the girls are the protagonists.
Right.
And when one of the protagonists makes a specific decision, the things around Hugh Grant don't ruin this movie at all. It's got nothing to do with him. But the decision that she makes coincides with the movie falling apart, which coincides with the biggest apex that happens to Hugh Grant's character, if that makes sense. I'm telling you, at the end of this movie, at the last 20 minutes, it is so painfully clear they had no clue how to write an ending for this movie. They did not know how to end this movie. It's so fucking obvious, and it is such a disservice. Oh, also, we've got who's the guy from that 70s show? That's not Tobey Maguire, is it? No, it's the guy that looks like Tobey Maguire. Who is that?
The guy that looks like Tobey Maguire from that 70s show. What character is he in that 70s show? Give me a character name.
The main character.
Oh,
He's
Eric?
The main character. Eric, yeah.
Topher Grace.
Topher Grace, thank you. So his name's Topher. I always think Toby. Toby. He's in this. He's even in this. Like, it's a good cast. Everybody in this are strong. The performances are so strong. The cinematography is really good. But I feel like regardless of who the cinematographer is, someone at A24 is telling everybody your movie has to look like this. It's kind of like why Netflix is, all their shit looks the same, because they have a list of these are the cameras you have to use if you want it to be a Netflix production, which I got a real big fucking problem with, by the way. It's my same problem with A24. There was a time around the era of like The Witch where I felt like A24 had a vibe, but not a cinematography style, and I feel like everything I see from A24 now looks very, very similar to everything else. Do you agree with that?
I mean, no, because like
no,
Everything Everywhere All at Once doesn't look anything like this.
I guess that's true.
I mean, I think
okay.
I think there's
I
think there's a vibe that whoever is buying and funding their movies has that they really like, that they look for in projects
it's
that
really
they're getting involved in. I think that's what you're picking up on, but I don't think there's somebody at A24 going like Netflix saying it needs to look and sound or whatever like this.
Fair enough. And Netflix, that's what they're doing, by the way. It's also why
it's why everything feels so homogenized over there too. Like everything feels just,
but like I said, the cinematography is not. But I mean, it's amazing. It really is good. The lighting department and the camera department did an amazing job. Everything in this movie is amazing. But these fucking writers. They're also the directors, by the way. The directors are also the writers, which, that's fine. Whatever. You can do that when you can do it. Do that when you can do it.
So this was written by Scott Beck.
And Brian Woods.
Brian Woods is the guy that wrote A Quiet Place, apparently, and 65, which I can't. I think we both kind of liked that. I can't quite remember. He did the screen story for The Boogeyman. Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff, The Bride Wore Blood, I don't know what that is. That sounds interesting. He's pretty new. Like,
yeah, well, but again, though, dude, like that's like
Brian Woods
80% of this movie is great.
Oh, apparently they do everything together.
Okay.
Because like I'm looking at both their credits and they both have pretty much the exact same credits.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know what happened here. I really don't, because everything up till then, I even told Brittany, because Brittany watched this before I did, and she said something about me being angry before I said something, because it was apparent on my face while I was digesting what was happening, because I had this look on my face of like, why did that just happen? Why come is what's happening is? And she looked on my face and she was like, oh no, I knew you were going to feel this way. That's what she said to me.
That's funny.
Before I said anything, she was like, and I told her, I was like, why did that just happen? Why did she do that? Like and this is what I'm saying. The protagonist is one thing, one decision, where it's one of those things where there's a fork in the road, literally, actually, because she can go two directions, and she goes the wrong way, and you just go, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's one of those moments. And up until that point, I told Brittany this. Up until that point, I was literally thinking, I'm going to buy this when it comes out on video. That's how much I loved this. Up until the last 15 to 20 minutes. It falls apart completely.
So what is your rating on this?
I believe I gave this... Oh, did I really? Yeah, I did. Yeah, no, that seems fair. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. I gave it a 6 out of 10 because it is not 95% of the movie's fault that the writing fucked up 5% of it. So I gave it a 6%. I gave it a 6%. And dude, I'm telling you, the last 15 to 20% was so impactful on the rating for this for me. I was gonna give it like an 8.5 out of 10. I loved this movie right up until then, and I was angry.
What did you watch this on?
I watched this, I think it was on Amazon. Well, Brittany rented it on Amazon. I don't even buy anything on Amazon anymore. But you're going to have to go watch this on Amazon, or or you could support the movie and not support Jeff Bezos and just wait for it to come out on video. Do that.
All right.
Do B.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely on my watch list. This is something I've been meaning to get around to since it came out. I was going to go see it in theaters, but I think something else came out that I prioritized. But yeah,
it might now. Again, we all know I have anger issues, so maybe it won't bother. I mean, you're going to notice it. You, Mike, are going to notice it. You are going to hate it, but you might not hate it as much as I did. I don't know. But other people, it might not bother them as much, but I think it is totally worth going and watching. This movie is worth watching just for Hugh Grant. I love him in this movie. He's amazing.
That was the main draw of why I wanted to see it.
Yeah, he is phenomenal in this movie. I love him in it. He's great.
All right, well, that brings us around to my review for Wolfman. Wolfman is from 2025. It's essentially about a guy who grows up in the woods with his dad. And I'm also going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. There is one spoiler thing I want to talk about, but I'll tell you before I talk about that. But this is essentially a kid that grows up in the woods with his dad, who teaches him how to hunt, live off the land up in Oregon. One day in the woods, they basically get attacked by an animal. And that night, the kid walks into the room while the dad's on the CB radio, basically saying, I found it, we need to go kill it. And then it cuts to 30 years later where the kid is fully grown up and living in the woods, or living in the city rather, and no longer living in the woods. And has not talked to his dad in 10 plus years, I believe. So,
and at this point in the movie, were you still on board with it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
because I feel like that is the potential to already set a pretty shitty premise where they're like, I found it, and then they just cut and you miss a bunch of shit. So
well, I don't really hate the whole 30 years later thing, but I did sort of see that coming. Like at the very beginning, it's already pretty obvious what's going to happen there. But anyway, we cut to 30 years later. He gets an envelope in the mail saying your dad's dead. Come deal with his shit out in the woods. And he's got a family of his own. He's got a wife and a kid of his own. And so he basically talks his wife into taking the summer off. They go out to Oregon to pack up his dad's cabin. And while they are out there, the very first night, they get attacked by something in the woods. And they have to basically survive the night so that they can live and get out of the Oregon woods. And that is the basic premise. I think that this is something that I knew very little about this movie going into it. And I did that on purpose because I feel like I've been watching, like Maxine was a real turning point for me where I had watched all the trailers and really in the same way that Skyrim was a turning point for me in hype for video games. I feel like Maxine was a real turning point for me as far as movies go and hype and living up to expectations. The guy who
didn't have to wait 2 hours in the cold for Skyrim.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, the entire movie is genuinely all right up to a point. And there is no specific point that I can point to where I'm like, this is where everything turns for me. And I end up not really caring for it all that much because the whole movie is just sort of bland. There's this very real feeling in this film of like meh and like good enough from up and down. Like from the director to the writer to the music to the acting, like it just feels like everybody was just kind of there to make a movie, but nobody was really into the idea fully. Werewolf movies, I've done, I think I did a Howling review a year ago or so that did okay on the channel. Werewolf movies are definitely something that I'm into. So this is something that I was kind of, I have expectations for what a good werewolf movie should be because there are a lot of werewolf movies and it's very easy to make a shitty werewolf movie. So going into this is wolf space man. So the premise for this is slightly different, where it's like a camper in the woods. This is all on text at the very beginning of the film. A camper in the woods in 1996 went missing, and he was never found again. But there were rumors that he was turned into a wolf, and that in the woods sometimes that he will attack people and stuff like that. So that's the very beginning of the film. That's what they set up. And then they go into the scene of the dad and the kid running into an animal in the woods, although they don't show it. And then in the woods 30 years later, they get attacked by something that we don't really see all that well, but he is, quote, standing up on two legs like a man, unquote. So they tip their trailer over in the middle of the woods and get attacked by this thing. And from there, the entire rest of the movie is essentially them just sort of running away from it. And then here's the spoiler that I will just go into. This is not a heavy spoiler, but essentially the main character.
Don't ruin it. I'm gonna see this.
Essentially, I'm not going to tell you the ending, but this is a point in the movie that I'm not sure is in the trailers or not, because again, I didn't watch them. The dad starts to turn into the werewolf.
That is in the trailers.
Okay, it is. So that is basically what the rest of the movie is the wife trying to figure out how to protect herself and her daughter from the husband while simultaneously trying to help him. And it does this very cool thing sometimes where the camera will rotate around his head and you can see what he's seeing as a werewolf, and everything's sort of blue and hazy, and everybody's eyes light up and he can't understand what anybody is saying. And it's this very cool thing in the movie, but I feel like they sort of underutilize it a lot.
Yeah.
It's not used nearly as much as I would have because of how cool the premise is.
Maybe they were afraid of beating a dead horse.
Yes, but I can't remember exactly how many times, but I feel like they only use it like twice, maybe 3 times. Whereas there were points in this movie where I was like, I would have put it there. Like right here is a very good point to put it, but they use it in a way because he can see in the dark. So there are points where they're like scared in a basement looking into black, like a black dark basement, not seeing anything. The camera rotates and he's standing right in front of them, but they can't see him. And there are moments like that that are very cool because of this thing, but it's just underutilized a little bit more than I would have liked to have seen.
I think they did exactly what you're supposed to do in show business. What's the old saying? Always leave them wanting more.
Yeah. The problem is how mediocre pretty much everything else is. The like there are transformation scenes, like one specific one that's pretty cool, and you can really tell if you've seen The Howling and An American Werewolf in Paris.
Is The Howling the one with the puppets in the church?
Puppets in the church.
What was that one?
No, that was The Church. That you're thinking of.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. Where that big thing is at the end, and it's like a wormy like puppet. Yeah, that's that Dario Argento Presents movie. I think it's The Church. Right. I think. Anyway, The Wolfman just feels from top to bottom very meh, and I'm seeing here on IMDb that it has a rating of 5.9 out of 10, which I think that's pretty accurate. The Metascore is 50 on this, so I don't know. This is going to appeal to people that are not really into horror movies. I feel like this is a good gateway into like more hardcore horror movies for someone that's
especially
not super
creature
into
features.
It. Yes, and I will also say it's also really cool that we're getting werewolf movies in 2025. I think that we need more stuff like this, but the fucking CGI, when you could have done practical effects, it's disappointing. It takes away from the film. It doesn't have as much punch as the reason An American Werewolf in London. Did I say Paris earlier? I think I said Paris. There's a reason the American Werewolf in London transformation scene has held up so long, and there's a reason that the Howling transformation scene has held up so long. It is because they are done practically. And when you do something in camera, it is more believable than when you just make it happen in a computer later. Yep. And so that's a big point for me when you're going to be doing creature movies like this. I just it has to be more expensive to do a CGI, right? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Even if it's now more expensive, I actually had this realization when I was watching. I just watched Arcadian, which I loved, by the way.
I saw that in theaters.
It was really good. I liked it, but every time there's a creature feature with CGI creatures, part of me feels like I'm watching Roger Rabbit. I feel like I'm watching Roger Rabbit because that's what you're fucking watching.
Yeah.
You're watching, like, it's just animation. Like, everybody talks about how, like, you know, Roger Rabbit did this whole thing with animation and live action, and now that's just what movies are.
There is a moment in this movie where you're just like, you couldn't make a foam puppet. Like, you couldn't hire somebody to make a foam fucking puppet. At least
the world is low on gasoline, not foam and silicone.
Yeah, so I don't know, up and down. I don't want to spoil this movie, so I don't want to go into great long depths because this is still in theaters. Unlike Heretic, which has been out for a little bit, this is only a few weeks old. So I don't want to spoil every single thing about this. It's going to be months before a lot of people fucking see this movie anyway. So all I'm saying is that if you go into this with realistic expectations, you're going to have a good time. There is fun to be had in this film. I just think that it's just sort of mediocre, and it doesn't, you know, we walked out of there. I watched it with my girlfriend, and she said when we came out of there, I don't think we've seen a good movie in theaters in 3 fucking months. And I told her, I said, well, we saw Nosferatu. She hated Nosferatu. And I was like, so if we take out Nosferatu out of that equation, because regardless of what I think about Nosferatu, it's a genuinely well-made, well-crafted, well-directed, well-acted movie, period. Yes. So other than Nosferatu, I started thinking about what the last movie I saw in theaters that I like walked out of feeling like fucking yes. And I think it was Maxine. That was what? November?
Ish. Yeah.
Maybe it was summer. I can't even remember.
I don't know. I didn't really like Maxine, so.
You didn't like it? Yeah, it was July. July was the last movie that I thought, like, that I walked out of thinking, fuck yeah, that was awesome.
Well, maybe that says more about you.
Does it? Name something. Other than Nosferatu, name something. Anyway, I gave Wolfman a 5, which is higher than it deserves, I think.
Can I have more time?
Sure.
Can I have more time?
Sure.
Can I call a friend?
Yeah.
You're on an episode right now. What was the last movie in theaters you and I saw, or that you remember me seeing, that made me go, that was amazing, other than Nosferatu?
Oh, that's a little hard.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. That's what I needed. Can you genuinely remember one? No.
Oh no. Oh no.
All right. Well, you just proved Mike's point for him.
You're welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. I love you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough, man. Fair enough.
I feel like we started 2024 pretty strong. And even through the middle of the year, 2024 was pretty good as far as movies go. Yep. But it tapered off really hard at the end. And even like during November, I usually go see like several movies a month. November and December and most of January, I've seen very little, just because there's been very little out that like will get me to go to a theater. And I'm somebody that actively wants to go to a theater to have that experience. And there's just been nothing in theaters lately that I've been feeling like everyone needs to go see this. This is a theater movie. Other than Nosferatu, because people are going to be like, Nosferatu. Yeah, we're excluding that from this conversation because that is an obvious outlier.
5 more times.
Yeah.
You're going to say that 5 more times because there's 30 seconds in between each time you say it and people forget. No, I have been going to theaters just to take advantage of my AMC subscription.
Yeah.
I think, the last movie I saw in theaters was Presence, and
We both saw
we've started
Presence,
this recording.
yeah.
We've started this recording 3 times now, so I don't remember if we said this on this iteration.
No, we haven't talked about it. No.
It's the worst movie I've seen so far.
This year?
No, ever.
Oh, okay.
No, it's.
I mean, it's definitely the worst I've seen all year so far, which is like
top
5
3
movies,
worst
but
thriller
still.
movies of all time.
Dude, it's bad.
Top 3
Presence is
worst
really, really fucking bad.
of all time.
Like the cinematography's bad, the
Everything
writing is
about it
bad,
is
the acting is
awful.
bad,
Yes.
the lighting is bad. Like it's just
Soderbergh,
top
we
to
get
bottom
it.
bad.
You can make movies with cell phones.
Yeah.
We get it. Now stop
Yeah.
making movies
when
with
you
cell
do more
phones.
than one, it becomes your thing. Kind of like when old twist ending, fucking what's his face, Sixth Sense.
Oh,
I'm blanking. Shyamalan. When Shyamalan put a twist ending in 2 movies, it was like, oh, okay. And then he did another one, and then it was like what everyone expected from him from every movie he makes. So if he makes one more, I think he's going to solidify himself as just like cell phone movie guy. Maybe he's okay with that, but I don't know if he's watching his own movies, but somebody in his camp needs to be honest with that guy.
He is
Holy
watching his own
shit.
movies because he's fucking editing them. Dude.
Holy fuck.
He's fucking editing them. That's the problem. Is he filmed it and then he still had the opportunity to go, maybe I cut my losses on this one. Everybody got paid. We did our thing already. I mean, we could just make an insurance claim and get our money back. But no, he stuck to his guns. And as we talked about on the phone, proving a point should not be what you make your whole career about.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think that this worked.
I don't know if you can keep that part.
I'll cut around it. I don't know. I think I can make that funny if I bleep it.
Okay.
All right. When I talk about a movie next time that is not in theaters, or if I talk about a movie that's not in theaters next time, I will go more in depth because I feel like you were able to go a little bit more in depth than I was just because mine's still in theaters. I don't want to ruin it for everybody, but I do feel like this movie needs to have some people saying like, hey, just know that this is mediocre as shit. And, it's not a high budget AAA title. It's just not. So
No, but
just to have realistic expectations going into it of it's kind of a shitty werewolf movie and you'll have fun with it.
Yeah.
That's the important thing is setting the expectations correctly for a movie like that is very important. So, all right. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I might go watch this today, actually.
Yeah, I do think you should watch it at the very least. Yeah, it is worth watching.
Go watch Heretic. Give them your money, time, attention thing. Or since everything is, data now, give them your analytics. I don't fucking know, but it's worth watching. It's worth watching. Just know. This is a breakup after 2 years. It is fucking heartbreaking at the end.
All right. So if you like this, make sure you hit the like button. If you really liked it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you thought of the new format because this is going to be just like before. We're going to whittle this down into something that's a little more streamlined and a little more refined, so that in future episodes it doesn't feel so awkward. But I feel like this is a good move. I like this. And when we talk about movies that we both have seen, we'll be able to both chime in and stuff like that. But I think that this was a good first try for the new format. So
Yep.
all right. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time from the deep. Bye bye.
Ta-ta.